Welcome to this week's episode of What You Making. For those who are watching, you'll notice it's a little different intro. We had some technical difficulties during the episode, during the What You Watching section of this episode. So our guest, Brittany, her audio cuts away. So the conversation ends up being a little one-sided between Alex and I as we are listening to her, but the recording didn't capture her recording. So I've limited those spaces so it will feel a little cutty during that little section, but we do have her audio for the beginning half of the show and for the end of the show during the main topic. It's just during that segment that the issue happens. So thank you so much for watching, and let's get to the show.
What you making in the shop today? Got a couple Alexes to help you find a way. From the blueprints to the shavings on the floor. Put up a stool, let's see what's behind the door. Keep on creating, keep the vision in your sight. Shout out to the makers doing what is done right. This episode is brought to you by Next Wave CNC. Precision in your hands for the world to see. What you making?
Hey, and welcome to What You're Making. This is a podcast where we talk all about what's on our bench, spotlight makers throughout the community, and remind you that April 29th is International Dance Day and National Shrimp Scampi Day. Just don't do them at the same time. Tonight's main topic is epoxy art with our special guest, but more about them in just a moment. I'm Alex Duffey, and you can find me on Instagram and on YouTube at Duffey Woodcraft.
Oh, you just made me so hungry now because it's been a while since I've had a shrimp scampi, but I freaking love it. I think the closest Red Lobster to me closed,
Red Lobster?
and that's like an hour.
I'm sorry, you've eaten at... Don't talk to me. You've eaten at Red Lobster? Come on, guys.
He's in a landlocked state. That's
Nebraska's quadruple landlocked. And
that's
it's
as
a
close
shame
to
because I
anything
love
seafood as they get.
You're forgiven, I guess.
But who are you, Alex? The other Alex.
Oh man. Well, you can find me over at Type A Furniture on Instagram. But lately you just find me over here more. And if you want to be someone awesome and support the madness of this show, you can do so at Patreon. Oh my goodness. Patreon.com/whatyourmakingshow. Yeah.
Please sign up. Alex needs coffee apparently, or an energy drink or something. So,
which is weird because I've gotten my like with working with that trainer, I've gotten my protein goal. I think I've hit about 200 grams of protein for today. So yeah, I should have the energy. I mean, I did run twice today, so
that would do it.
It wasn't that much. Yeah, it wasn't that much though. Like they weren't long particular runs. So yeah.
All right. What You Making is proudly sponsored by Next Wave CNC. If you're looking for the best CNC on the market today, look no further than a Shark CNC from Next Wave. 100% American made in Perrysburg, Ohio. Next Wave is the leader in desktop CNCs, not CNEs, with sizes from a 1x1 to a 4x4, and you'll find the machine that's right for your shop. So you've already heard her voice, but if you're wondering who that voice is,
who are you?
Our very special guest tonight is a mixed media artist, art teacher, and has a master's in art education. She's known around the community as one of the nicest people and easily one of the greatest artists around. Please welcome to the show, Brittany Carbone.
You guys did your homework, and
Hello.
That was surprising nice to hear too. That's what's been said around. So thank you for sharing that with me. And
of course.
Yeah, so you basically said it all. Mixed media artist, teacher. And yeah, I've definitely have found myself doing a lot more teaching than making lately. But I think with this new space I have here, I definitely want to start having art classes in here too. So it's like this, I'm in this whole new, I think, artistic pivot right now. With what the work that I have done with where I'm going to. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year, because it's definitely not going to be what it's been like.
Cool. So I remember we met the first time we met was at Workbench Con, and I remember you. I think you were in the Total booth, and you were just looking at some epoxy and stuff. And I had a couple of questions, and you were so nice to answer questions because I had no knowledge about epoxy. But I have always loved your the landscape work that you do. Like so,
Thank
those
you.
landscape above looks like you're looking straight down onto real ocean and real forest. It looks so cool. So
Thank you.
I've been a huge fan.
Thank you. Yeah, those came from, I made my first piece was like a Cape Cod piece, and I think, I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how you feel about your landlocked state, but us Massachusetts with the hook, we love, I don't know, people like will wear the shirts with Cape Cod, and I mean, maybe you get that mutual love. I don't know, but a universal thing of like where you're from. But I've had a lot of great childhood memories on Cape, and obviously I was raised here and everything. So, um, when you see the actual like hook of the arm and stuff like that, it's nostalgic because they have it on everything, and that's just like what it represents. So when I started creating those pieces, one, it came from a place of nostalgia and like just good childhood memories, but I think it also piqued that in other people too, and being like, oh, like that reminds me of like I'm from St. Croix, like I would love to have that piece because that reminds me about who I am and where I came from. So I've had this really, it's not even just like a special gift, but it's like a privilege to see into other people's lives for like what makes them tick and what's important to them, and giving them this opportunity to make something that's so important to them, whether it's like a lot of it's for like a gift for somebody else, or it had to do with like somewhere they're from, or just a really fond memory that it came from. And it's kind of crazy to think how there's such a universal experience of being identifying with where you're from or land and stuff like that. It's just like this, it's like a deeper thing of just saying, oh yeah, that's cool, it's above, but a lot of it comes from like what makes you feel good, like those fond memories that you've had, and that sense of belonging too, kind of thing. So it's that's what I've noticed when I've gotten other commissions from the first piece that I made.
Yeah, so I'm in the Portland area and on the West Coast, and so I hear that all the time of people in our area, and I sell cribbage boards in the shape of our state, and then a lot of people ask me to do like certain landmarks like Haystack Rock on the West Coast and stuff. So I totally get that. Alex,
Yeah.
I don't know what you do in your state because what is there a hill?
Hey, we've got Chimney Rock and Jailhouse Rock, so don't sleep on landmarks. We have some interesting stuff in the western half of the state, but on the eastern half of the state, it's
Corn.
usually more just the state profile, and then like because Nebraska football has always been like ingrained into everyone since we don't have any professional teams. Like you see the Nebraska logo on like everything as well. So there's a lot of that. And then, I mean, even for Lincoln, the state capital, I mean, obviously we compensate with that because it's like the tallest state capital. And then when someone like renovated theirs to be taller, they're like, we need it to be even taller. So yeah, like we attempt to compensate for our flat state.
Yeah, compensating, all right.
Definitely.
Hey, pros and cons.
So Brittany, how yeah, so when did you get started doing epoxy and mixed media specifically?
So mixed media came first. I studied it in undergrad, and I've always been drawn to texture, collaging, and putting things together. And I remember specifically one of my professors introduced me to a type of assemblage, I guess you would call it. And I study abroad it was like a semester thing in Italy, and I saw this beautiful layering of like modern buildings with like antiquity basically, and it reminded me of like people, like it was pieces of like people were once left behind, so like things that like there was evidence that people were once there. So I did this whole body of work with like taking like either articles of clothing and things like that, and I just loved that nostalgic piece, and I feel like that has continued a trend into a lot of my work. It wasn't though until after my master's thesis, it was an arts-based research project where I was doing a lot of work where it was both research and art making, but I did it about my legs. I had a really bad running injury and I painted about my legs for like 12 years. And that thesis really helped me close that chapter, and it made me realize I want to make some new work. I don't want to paint about my legs anymore. I've moved on from that. I understood all that, and I want to make new work for myself. And I've worked with all types of mediums, and I said, like, you know what? If I just did watercolor or acrylic paint, I know myself, I would get bored. I would just like toss it off to the side. So let me learn something new. So this was back in like 2019, and I actually started looking at acrylic pouring, and I'm like, oh, it's just something different, it's fluid, whatever. And then I remember seeing on YouTube on the side of the suggested videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks like an actual ocean. And I bought myself some epoxy. I think it was probably from Michael's or Amazon. I don't know where it was from. But it was the most frustrating material I've ever worked with in my entire life. Like, I can pick up things really quickly, and it took me a long time to figure it out because I was trying to do it on my own. And I like look up some videos, but I didn't know what I was looking for. And I finally figured out. I remember that first day, I actually still have the pieces. I was able to finally make cells, like the foam. But oh my goodness, it looks like the foam. It's not just like milky clouds anymore. And figuring that out was amazing. And then over the course of like those few years, like I've made a lot of mistakes, and that's actually why now when I teach it, I know from experience why not to do certain things. And then also I learned that it's all science, and I am not a science person whatsoever. So but now understanding the science, it makes complete sense why things don't work. So like when I do something and I mess up, I know right away, oh, I actually know why it happened, which is kind of nice now. But I got into epoxy because I wanted to learn something new and start making art for myself. And it actually opened up this whole other way of possibly living and going with a career. And I've met all these amazing people. And now I'm here, and this is a totally different path than where I was before. So it was kind of cool when you start investing in yourself and do something for yourself and where it can bring you.
Absolutely.
I'm curious, with the art background that you have, where obviously that's what you studied, how much of that would you say is the like developing the skill portion versus the creative side of more of like the design portion? Because when I think about that, there's like because you had mentioned a little bit of like figuring out with the different materials, like some materials are harder to work with, and there's a learning curve to like get them to do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone like me that's more technical and doesn't have as much artistic ability, it's tough for me to like think and actually conceive like how that would look in an academic setting. Like it's I don't want to say it's a mystery to me, but like going through the academic process, there's a lot of different routes that people could take, obviously, but I'm not as familiar with it as you would. So maybe enlighten me a little bit on what that looks like. Because it seems like to me it's like people like to throw shade on creative programs, and that there is a lot more value there than like what people probably initially see, the work that goes into them.
Yeah.
And sorry if that's a terribly
No,
run-on sentence, weird, like open-ended question.
to clarify, you're curious in what the academic side of studying art looks like and what it's like from the inside. Is that what you're?
Yeah, like the content of the class.
Sure.
Yeah, like your coursework, because like there's obviously the inspirational side, the studying some history. There's the like technical learning skills of like
Yeah.
trying new materials and learning technique, and then you just like the creative idea portion where like taking those skills and creating something with it and doing it in your own way.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would this how I studied it in grad school is very different how I studied it in undergrad. For undergrad, like they kind of treat you in the beginning of like, okay, we know what you went into here for, but we want to expose you to everything and see if there's actually another route we can take you. And they try to. My academic experience was pretty well rounded. I wanted to be at not an all art school because I was also an athlete, so I didn't want to just be, because I don't see myself as one thing. So I got to study other things outside of art as well as art, but in the art like section, it wasn't just what I went in as a graphic design major, which is wild right now to even say, because I haven't touched anything graphic design forever, but they treat you where you have to like learn all these different skills, like 2D concepts, 3D concepts, art history throughout. Everyone took figure drawing because if you can draw a human figure, you can literally draw anything. It's the most challenging thing to draw. And the settings are very different. We also had a colloquium where he just talked about art and the making of it and things like that. I remember even taking like ethics class, all these different things. I would say, I think answering more to your question would probably what I did for my master's, obviously is for art education. So there was a lot of education theory that we had to write about. But for my thesis in particular, there were different routes that you could go. And there is a term for the type that I did, the arts-based research. It's like half thesis, half actual art making. And I would love to be able to find the term of it, but basically was I saved all my bib numbers from running and I wrote down like my splits and everything. And it was like, I had this real kind of strong attachment to them. I had them all in a bulletin board and I took them all down and that felt like a lot. And then I actually put them into my paintings. And what I would do is I'd have an idea for an artwork and then I would create it. And then what I did was I wrote down how I responded to it, because what happens for me is when I create something, you may already have something feeling internally and you can picture it in your head, but when you finally express it visually, it makes a lot more sense to you what was happening or what's going on here. And there's almost like this part of relief that leaves you. I don't feel like I'm answering your question whatsoever, but my research, the injury really affected me. I was like a really big runner and all these things. And the research I found in scholarly peer-reviewed literature, my experience for how it affected me was typical for the age. It was emerging adulthood. My cognitive appraisal, like it's always different for everybody, but for where I was, like everything that I experienced, it was really validating to read in literature that this is actually what's very typical for somebody who identifies. It was a loss of a social identity. An artist is almost a social identity to a degree, but not completely, because you can also be an artist and no one know about it. But it was a loss of a social identity. And so what was happening was I was reading about this in several different places and putting it all together, gathering that information. So taking my own experience and then the things I experienced, finding it in literature, and then also taking my bib numbers, putting it in paintings, painting my legs, the injuries that I had, and then taking that information together. Oh, my data, my phone is, hope can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's just this running low, the data. And putting that information together is what made the paper. So the academic part of the art making was really like, there was an artistic process of me making it. And then I interpreted what the process felt like and also what I saw in front of me after I finished. And then I took that information and took it with what I read about what happens to somebody psychologically with those types of injuries, who is an athlete, this and that, at that time period. And that is what helped me understand it. And I think for another piece about art making is for anyone going through any type of, I think, physical or any type of injury, it's a really a mind body approach should be a thing. Like I remember a student asking me if I was ever to write a book, what would it be on? And I'd say the how it's a mind body approach to any injury. So if someone was to have surgery on their body, this should not only just address physical therapy, but there should also be some sort of addressment of, it could even be through art, of how it is to experience that. So it was kind of crazy how I was able to pair things that I've read about scientifically with what I was trying to interpret with what this whole attachment was to these numbers. Because I went away, I was letting them go by putting them in a painting. They're there. Like I can't take them out and whatever, cover them up somewhat with paint. I think I have some here somewhere, but that was the academic piece for me. And then now, are you curious about taking that academic and bringing it into how I am now as an artist or teacher, or do you have a question?
For those watching on YouTube, you may have noticed the videos or Brittany's video is off. That's just because we have some bandwidth issues. So just keep listening, but she's still here. So Brittany, go ahead. You were you were saying about your education and how that affects you now.
Yes. Well, the funny thing about studying art education, it doesn't, being in an actual classroom is very different. But I do want to say, as a professional artist, my master's project, even though it was about art education, it told me a lot about how our internal world relates to obviously what we're creating, but also it's a universal experience. I feel like I have a privilege and to be able to create something from nothing. I'm able to take something that I think many people do feel, and able to create it into something visual and help us feel understood and connected. And we're drawn to things for different reasons. We have reactions for things to different reasons. And I think my experience doing my thesis project helped me really understand the power of your mind and the things that just lived experiences, and how that really should be tied into your work. And it's not just about making something pretty. And this might even be a great thing for people to understand about abstract art, because if you just see abstract art alone and be like, I don't get it, how anyone could do that. It's more about a feeling that is trying to be evoked. So, I mean, I can't speak for all abstract artists, but as I've ever delved into it, you're trying to evoke a certain emotion, and sometimes we can feel that through different color and color relationships, shape relationships, and how things are visually portrayed. And we gravitate towards those things. And that's why I think we like art, because it's fulfilling something that we cannot actually say, but we can feel. And that it really showed how important it is to really create something that is emotionally charged. So when I make things, like the Skull Moon piece, that first one did, I was very emotionally charged. I was going through a serious rough patch, but that was the fastest selling piece I've ever made, and the most response I've ever gotten to one. And that's why I continued that work, because people were curious about it. And it just goes to show that one's lived experience is universally felt, and it's we're a lot more connected than we think we are. So I think that academic piece for me, it really showed me that, one, understanding the work, but also how much it ties into, like, when you do create something, it's coming from something internal. So, and you see the value in that, being able to share that with other people and also express things that they cannot express for themselves.
Yeah, the expression of and the communication of that idea or that feeling, I can relate to that in terms of when I was younger, when I had like ideas of things that I wanted to make and I was trying to like explain it to people, I didn't have really good descriptive ability. And so when I learned, like, it's a much more technical side of things, but like drafting or drawing like a three-dimensional object, being able to sketch something in CAD and create it, and then be able to show someone, this is what I'm trying to explain, like that, it becomes the communication medium, and all of a sudden, like, people were able to understand the idea or the object that I was trying to describe to them so much better as a result of that. And
Yeah.
I know that I felt so much more, um, I felt so much better because I was like, okay, this was more of a communication issue. It wasn't that my ideas were like bad or terrible or didn't make like they didn't make sense from a conceptual standpoint. It was my communication medium, and when I was able to add a few different skills to communicate that, it became something that I could actually communicate through that medium of creating a three-dimensional object within a CAD program or something like that someone else could manipulate and see and
Yeah.
be able to understand. So, I mean, obviously I'm talking on a little bit more to a specific, like a physical and other object.
Great
But I can see
analogy.
I can see the bridge of communicating of the like the emotion and other aspects through
Yeah.
those mediums in the art.
Yeah. No, that's
And
a really good analogy, and I feel like it's a bit more straightforward and I think an explanation, which I feel like I was going off on a tangent, but now that makes complete sense.
mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know on our campus of the University of Nebraska, they always had these outdoor art exhibits that I'd always be like either going by or walking past. Like some of them were much more, you know, more modern and abstract. And
Yeah.
some of them were a little bit more of like classical art, and there was an art museum on campus as well. But I saw a lot of um either like marble or some type of stone carved. Like some of them were much more basic, um, but sometimes the appreciation of that art piece is understanding, the material that they're working in, and sometimes just the sheer scale of creating the object um, is the awe-inspiring portion. Because in my mind, when I look at something, I'm always thinking, how was that made? How was that created? Like, what was the challenge behind making
Yeah.
this particular piece? Because like there was one other art piece that I remembered that was this very large metal painted piece that was essentially a notebook with notebook pieces coming out, but it's like, gosh, was it like 10 feet tall or something like that? And for me, like, there's that cool aspect of like they had like, you know, they had taken out and etched out where the notes and the words were or something like that. And but like I'm just looking at the sheer size and scale and how they were able to manipulate the metal to get it into these very organic shapes.
Hmm.
And that was the part that like um engaged me, was just, it's like, how did this thing come into being? So there's definitely different ways to experience that artwork piece, because there's different, depending on how you interpret it, the different emotions that it evokes and what it makes you think about and how it
Yeah.
engages your brain.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, why don't we get moving through our segments here? So we'll get going with.
What you doing?
So what you're doing is our segment about what is on our workbench this week. So for me, I'm in the middle of again prepping for my UFO Fest. That's coming up in May. Is the big UFO Fest here. So um, first, I had to reorder business cards. So I 3D printed. Alex, this is for you. I 3D printed as you can see here on the screen, it's a little card embosser because I didn't want to spend the money to get my cards embossed. So I can just literally run the card through here and
Oh
it
yeah.
imprints a wood grain pattern on the card.
That's cool.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have
so,
seen that one. It's really fun.
so I printed two of them. I printed this one, and then there was another one that had the same pattern, but it had a chuck for my drill. So I could just sit here and hold the drill and feed cards into it because I had 1,000 cards to do. So it was way better than sitting here turning my wrist constantly. So that was fun.
I did actually see recently there was one where it was like a clamp for the book pages where you're like putting on like a stamp or a seal or something like that on the page of a book. And I think that you could do a similar thing where you could like swap out and put in like your own emblem or mark or something like that. So that just is something that I thought of recently, because that would be an interesting thing, since you've got, because you sell the bookmarks that you make, so there's a little bit of a book market that you have. So I'm curious if those individuals, it probably wouldn't, it's a very, very specific thing, but I was like, since you've already kind of got the ear of that crowd, I just wonder about the possibilities and making it much more difficult for you to have more stuff to stock and manage for your inventory.
Yeah, I'm not going to, but I do know there are people that make custom presses, what you're talking about, the embossing press, for people that like, Alice's library or, something. A lot of people who have, you can, with a CNC, you want to do brass, you can just mill the brass up, or aluminum as well. But I don't want to deal with metal on my CNC. So
I need to get on the CNC laser wagon because I feel like I have such a missed opportunity of like stuff that I could do. There's so much you could do with those that would just totally just expand stuff. My gosh.
yeah, I think a laser specifically for you too would be such a cool, all the little details that you could add into, especially I'm thinking like your landscapes and that kind of stuff. But yeah. So anyways, that was the first thing I did this week. And then I am working on a whole bunch of themed coasters. I made, I think, 100 coasters that I used AI to help me. It's funny you mentioned graphic design when you went into, I have a minor in graphic design. That's where I originally was going to, was TV production and graphic design. And I hate designing today. Like I won't open up Illustrator. I'll go to AI and just type in what I want it to make. So I used it for my my coasters. I wanted it to do a whole, like, I had one that was Sasquatch, or I typed in, I said, give me an outline, simple graphic design of Sasquatch and an alien having fun in the forest. And it was a picture of an alien, and it was pushing Sasquatch on a tire swing. And it was just something fun. So I used the laser then to engrave coasters. So I did about 100 coaster sets. And then I'm currently on the CNC cutting out alien and Sasquatch little figurine statues that I sell all year round. But I get a batch of them for the UFO Fest. That's what I'm doing at my shop. And then outside of the shop, so this last weekend, I actually took the weekend off of the shop and went into, I had a friend over. He needed help fixing a drawer for his kitchen, because apparently it was his drunk drawer and it got stuck, and he got mad. And so he just hulked it and literally ripped the whole particle board front off of the drawer.
I feel that.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? But yeah, so he doesn't have any clamps or glue or anything like that. So I clamped it, or I glued it, clamped it, and then you put a couple of staples in there for strength as well. So did that for him. And then on Sunday, my wife and I went over to some friend's house. They just got a house the last couple of years and are fixing up the land that it's on. There was this old chicken coop. They've decided they want chickens now. And so I helped them re-roof the chicken coop over the weekend, which I've never done roofing before and I never want to do again. So it was a lot of mess, and it was actually really hot here this weekend, which was very abnormal for us. So by the end of the day, I was just hot, sweaty, and like, this is not April. This is wrong. So
was it like an asphalt roof?
Yeah, asphalt roof.
Like just like a normal house roof.
Yep.
How big was it square footage wise?
It's an 8 foot by 8 foot.
I'd say that's a pretty sizable piece.
It's a good chicken coop, but it's also the chicken coop is off of the ground by 4 feet, and then it's 8 feet tall. Wow. So it's 12 feet to get to the roof line.
Wow.
So we're up on ladders the whole time, which, nobody likes being up on a ladder. So.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side story. I had, when I was doing some stuff with, the video analyzing of horses, when I had to put up cameras, I had this it was like the generic version of the little giant ladder, and it was like 27 feet or something like that, and I had to mount these things up high, so I'd be mounting cameras like 20 feet in the air. And there was one time, and I had to get like this ladder propped up all on my own, so I kind of got my system down where I had like laid it down flat so that the base was up against the post or pole or whatever, and then I would walk it up so that it went up straight, and then I would back over and then just get momentum going to get it to go up straight, and then I would basically ratchet strap it to the actual post that I was up against, so it was like nice and dug in. Because once you get up to the height, like you kind of get comfortable and accustomed to it. But there was one in particular where I was like, they had some of those big ass fans in this huge area, and the blade was maybe like 4 feet over from the post that I was putting it up on. So you have this huge, the big ass fan with like, I don't know how wide these blades are. Like they're probably like a 10-foot long radius blade, and they're just like whooshing by as I'm putting this ladder up, and I was like, God, this could go wrong so many ways. And so you just try not to think about it while I was doing it. So yeah, I've done some sketchy stuff on ladders.
I like I saw a brand of fans. It was actually called Big Ass Fan.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
That was the one.
Oh, okay, all right. So it does exist, and I'm not making shit up.
Yeah, usually they have the little donkey in the center portion of it. So when you look up, you see the donkey in the middle. So yeah, they're good fans.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you know Drew Witt, Brittany?
Who is it?
Drew Witt.
I don't know. Maybe
He's down in Texas.
He's another woodworker and been
I might.
bench and stuff. Anyways, he built a shop this last year, and he had got a big ass fan, and so he did a whole big bit about the name and everything. But they are massive. That's literally the reason why they call them that, is they're so huge.
So I know that's so funny.
So that's been what's on my bench this week. Brittany, what have you been doing this week?
This week I haven't done actually a whole lot because I had to get my car fixed. However, I am in the process of making some new moons, and they're all kind of experimental. They're all different kinds of approaches to it, and I'm also figuring out how to integrate light, using light with it, and so that is something. I haven't done something like this before, where I've taken a subject matter and trying to portray it through so many different mediums. Like one is just out of like Razo, a mineral casting compound. One's going to be a layered epoxy, and then ones are just painted on a panel. And then this other one I'm going to do where it's like embedded, like the cradle canvas I flipped it over, and that's where the light is going to go. So when you build up the moon, you'll see like the reflection, you'll see like the casting of the light with the shadows and texture. So just trying to think of different ways of portraying it. And then I was looking at like all the pictures from Artemis 2 with like the enhancements of the moons, and just absolutely beautiful. Even if it is just stuff that they used it to enhance it that way, just to invite the color in and not just be doing grayscale moons. So that's another thing that I'm going to be exploring. So I'm just in a very experimental phase and just doing some odds and ends. I got some stools for the studio, so I can, just preparing to start having classes in here and making it feel welcoming. So that's another thing that I've been working on, but no culmination of anything just yet. Just a lot of experimentation and prepping right now.
Yeah, those Artemis pictures, I had read some interesting things about the light source being different from the pictures that they had from the Apollo missions. So that's why you get some different colors because of how it's capturing the image. Like your light source is, it was different from then, so you get slightly different colors and all that fun stuff and all the photography things that I don't know about. But it was just
Yeah, I
interesting.
mean, it
to
is
be able-
still the sun.
well,
but
if it's
it
behind you
it's a
versus like
different
over to the
angle.
side,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, like
Yep.
how much of it you're actually getting. So
Fun fact
Uh,
though, they taught those astronauts how to take pictures. So
Yep.
like actually had photographers and artists train them because that was a big part of it is capturing those pictures.
mhm.
So that was kind of cool that the value of an artist and how that tied into um, rendering and capturing science accurately is kind of cool.
I did really like to. It came out. I think it was yesterday that they released it. But one of the people or one of the astronauts brought their iPhone, and so they did a video from their iPhone on it, and it was really interesting to see it. You know, without filters or a special camera or anything. It was a lot more tan than I thought. You know, the moon should be. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, it was really interesting to see the video because it was the Earth setting behind the sun or the moon as they went around. So
Wow.
yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, that reminds me of, because talking about them training the astronauts, I can't remember. I don't think they've taken this, but there was like a Japanese billionaire that wanted to take artists up and around the moon to
I
be
have not
able
yet.
to like to have that perspective and be able to create more art pieces based off of that, which is always, it's an interesting um
So it
concept.
was
Like,
going to
oh,
happen.
like,
It's not going to happen sadly anymore. He backed out
oh,
of it.
not,
He had paid SpaceX to basically do their first manned loop around the moon with Starship. But Starship has been so far behind, he pulled out the money behind it, and so
oh,
that
darn.
mission's no longer
Bad.
happening. But
Not yet.
not yet, yeah. But yeah, I was super. I was there with you because one of the scientists that I follow on YouTube, Tim Dale, he's a rocket scientist guy. He was selected to go on that mission,
My
and
God.
so he had been in training, and then sadly they canceled it because the guy pulled the funding. But
Talk about a dangled carrot.
seriously,
That's what I call those like big opportunities that are just dangling in front of you. I'm like, I don't know if this is going to happen. It feels very dangled carrot.
uh-huh.
Yeah, instead we get Katy Perry, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Just feel love. Or whatever she said. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna promote my tour while I'm up here.
The most capitalist thing ever.
Yeah, seriously. Alex, what about you? What's been on your bench this week?
Not a whole lot, because the last time I recorded, I had mentioned like this past week was like 2 track meets. I've been visiting my grandpa because he went over into hospice, so we went and spent a lot of time with him. And then we did some kind of, not exactly back to school shopping with my son, but like he had gotten some gift certificates and stuff for his birthday, and he wanted to like kind of go around the mall and just kind of see what he wanted. So we got a new Awala bottle, which he loves to do because he loves to slap stickers onto those things and customize them and whatnot. So we had a lot of fun. But the one thing that I did have was my wife, she had me print off some more straw toppers, because she'll occasionally like find one that she wants, and then have me 3D print it, and then she like gives it away at her workout classes as like incentive, or it like goes with a theme or something like that. So I don't know what the theme was for this one, but it was straw toppers that were corgi butts. So I don't know exactly what it was, but it was just like what?
I'm sorry, corgi butts?
Yeah, like this, the little corgi.
And you're sucking out the straw out of the corgi butt?
Hey man, it's
No, if
it's probably coffee. I mean, but who knows? Brown liquid.
around the
Yeah, think of it as a charm that goes on the actual straw. So like some people like, if they're like a Harry Potter fan, they'll put the like Deathly Hallows on there and it slips over or whatever. But yeah, I'll have to tell my wife to see what the ramifications are of the perspective of that. Hey, I'm not the I just do what she says, man.
No questions asked.
Exactly.
Corgi butts it is.
Corgi butts it is. On that note,
And nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
so I already know what went wrong for you, Alex, because I saw the video proof of what went wrong. But please set the stage here.
Yeah, so one of these track meets that I was at, so I coach distance, and so I take a lot of splits to keep track of, how the runners are doing to help them figure out areas to improve in their race. So I like to get splits every 200 meters to get a more detailed view of the race. So I'm basically running back and forth between the start and the 200 mark of the track, which is just diagonal on the track back and forth a lot, which is great for getting my steps in for the day.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I also have the meta glasses, so I'll occasionally like take pictures, take video of them to show the race and whatnot, because they like to post some stuff on social media. And so for the 3200, which is the 2-mile run for one of our races, as I was recording video with the meta glasses, I was backing up because I like to interact with them as much as I can during the race. And people practice on the infield, and so they had set up some hurdles. And so as I was backing up, I ran into a set of hurdles as I was recording with the meta glasses, and I like go head over heels. Like you see both of my feet in the air. I like rolled back, and then you just see me like grabbing my watch, because I have the stopwatches out, and then grabbing my phone and just getting right back into it and getting my splits. So yeah, it was very comical video, and the athletes absolutely ate it up and loved watching me eat it on a hurdle. And I definitely broke that hurdle because I was going in the opposite direction that they normally would go. So I went directly into one side of the hurdle with like all of my weight, and I bent that hurdle probably like 8 inches or so, and then the little like corner on the bottom, like the tube steel, or maybe it's aluminum, is like bent, and you can see like the crack on the side. So yeah, I obliterated that hurdle. And then
okay?
I also found out I'll be actually posting more video of it because someone else was recording the meet from the stands. So now we have a second view of me tripping or like running into this hurdle. So now I need to make
I want you to edit a side by side, please.
Yeah, I need to figure out how to edit this and combine the video. But it was hilarious because I had posted that, and then someone else had interacted like, hey, we recorded this. We got you getting, running into this hurdle from the other angle. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun working with that. So it's been hilarious. And this is also how some of my athletes have come across my Instagram page now.
Uh-oh.
So yeah.
So I will second what Brittany asked was, are you okay?
Yeah, I did just fine because I think it was just an instinctual thing where I knew that I needed to roll and keep the momentum going, because if you just like hit something and fall and you don't roll through it, all of that momentum goes into, whatever body part's getting the impact, and that's where you get an injury. So because I rolled, and it was also a turf infield, so you have a little bit of like the rubbery stuff in the turf that also absorbs some of that impact. So I didn't really feel too much or any soreness or anything like that. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by the lack of injury resulting in that.
I hope your student athletes are appreciative of your dedication to the cause of making sure you get that 200 split. You did not.
Yeah.
momentum. You just rolled and ran across. Like,
Yeah. No, and everyone, like, after that, everyone was, Alex, watch out for that hurdle, or look out for that hurdle. And, I kind of laughed, and did, like, a thumbs up as I was going away. And then I brushed up against one later on. I'm like, oh my God, I almost did it again. So I need to be more careful as I'm doing all of this stuff. So,
You tell stories like this and the story about the ladder, and I'm like, how are you alive?
just sheer dumb luck.
Brittany, what about you? Has anything not gone well for you this week? You said the car wasn't working.
yeah, so I've heard this noise in my car every time I'd like go over an uneven surface. And when I was asked how to describe it, I'm like, I don't know. It just sounds like something's like breaking, or like if you were to like kick a car, that's what it sounds like. So, they eventually brought it in because I'm like, probably not a good idea to keep driving on this thing. And they put it up on the thing, and the guy, he drove it around. He's like, I swear it's this thing. And then he saw it. He's like, oh my gosh, you have a broken spindle. The thing straight out broke. He's like, I've never seen this in my entire career. I'm like, I have an anomaly. My car is, you've never seen this before. That's very concerning. So it's basically the thing. I know jack diddly about cars, but basically, if I was to explain it to anybody else who doesn't know jack diddly about cars, so you got the wheel, and then you got this thing that is attached to the wheel, and then the spindle is attached to this ball joint that attaches to where the wheels turn. So it's like a big connective piece. So what happens is if you have to replace that, you got to replace all the other parts around it too. So that was an expensive.
Because you gotta.
Yeah, no, it was straight like broken. And funny thing is, when I was there, I was like, should I be driving on this? And the guy says to me, well, you have been, so just get it done sooner or later. A day later, I called to make an appointment to get it fixed. And then I asked, hey, is this safe to drive on the highway? And the guy was like, it's your life. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm thinking to myself, first of all, uncalled for. Second of all, drastically different story from yesterday. So I feel like I shouldn't drive it at all. So I went on Reddit. I'm like, I'm never ever going to ask some random mechanic because he's going to treat me like And it basically said on Reddit, was like, yeah, if you care about your life, don't drive on a broken spindle because that wheel could go flying off. And I'm like, oh my God. So I got it fixed. I didn't drive on it. I only drove to work. But I drove to
So a car issue that cannot be resolved by just turning up the radio.
No, but I think that's probably why I didn't hear it for so long, because I like jam out in my car.
Yep.
All the time. Lots of bass.
Yep, I do the same thing. And yeah, there's I could have a flat tire, and unless I feel it, I won't know my brakes are grinding until they're on fire because I have music so loud.
Yeah, so that was scary. I'm like, oh, it's like broken straight through. They're like, would you hit a pothole? And I go, I do live in Massachusetts. Of course,
I was
they said
yeah, pothole season.
Take it down a notch, but that was my reaction. I'm like, dude, there's literally potholes everywhere. I'm like, maybe, probably.
I was like, yeah, Alex, it's not just pothole season there. It's just Massachusetts is one big pothole.
It really is. It gets they get worse in the wintertime because when they plow and they sand, the road gets torn up, and then they just don't fix it until enough people complain about it because the town doesn't want to pay for it unless they have to.
Yeah.
Yep. That's pretty common.
Yes.
Sadly. For me this week, nothing really went wrong in the shop. If our listeners know, last week my eye had swollen up and was really bad from something. But I went into the doctor again today just because it still feels like there's something in there. And it's dry and itchy. But they could see that there had been something in there, but they couldn't find it. And they said, yeah, it's swollen and everything, but it's not nearly as bad as it was. So they said it's just probably healing. It'll take another week or so. but if it gets worse, call them again.
Jeez.
Yeah. Last week, Brittany, I almost canceled our recording because my eye was pretty much swollen shut and it was all red.
Terrifying.
God, it
just
reminds me
probably
of
a
when I
piece
was
of
little.
wood got in
Gosh,
there.
when I was like maybe 8 or so, and I was at like 4-H camp in the summer, and we were at like some pool or something, and a freaking like flying ant or something like that got in my eye, and for like I thought I had gotten it out. I was like, okay, this feels a little bit better, and then like later, you know, you just poking around at the eye, getting some of the crust stuff out of the inside of the eye, and I pulled out the dead bug, and I was like, well, that's what happened to it. So I was like, ugh. Yeah, that was fun.
Gross.
So
I'm really
gross.
And I do a lot of running, so I do occasionally get the, occasional bug that like flies up the nose or like flies in my mouth or something like that. Not super often, like once, maybe like once a season or so that
You should
happens.
add that to your protein list. I think your protein count is probably a little bit higher than you think then.
Yeah, I should record that in my nutrition intake.
I love it.
There you go. I'm glad you're better, Duffy, because that's really scary. Eyes are scary.
Yeah, it's the one thing I don't want people near my eye. I don't like I'd rather go to the dentist than go to the eye doctor. I just don't. So yeah.
Yeah,
but
I don't like it either.
It's one of those things.
What a relief.
Yep. Well, on that note, we'll move on.
Somebody's watching me. It's my anxiety.
All right. So this is What You're Watching, where we shout out makers throughout the community. So I'll start and then we'll do kind of a round robin, and Brittany, just call out whoever you have if there's only one or a couple, whatever works. So the first person I'm going to shout out is actually a resin artist, and I wanted to shout this person out. I've been holding on to them for a while, but I wanted to shout out specifically because Brittany's here and I actually see you interact with their comments, or they'll like it as well. So this is created by Jenny.
Yeah, Jenny!
And so Jenny is a phenomenal artist. I don't even understand how she actually does this, but I swear she just captures a frozen piece of liquid water and sells it as art, because her resin art is it's waves and ripples of water. It looks like you're looking top down into a shallow pool of water, and when the light hits it, it looks like it's just a perfect reflection of water. It is incredible. Without, you guys got to go see see her work. I don't understand how she does it. Do you know how she does it, Brittany? Maybe that's something you know, because I just, is it normal epoxy? Is she doing something special? Is she just, the ripples are just that incredible?
Her process is very meticulous. Like, it's not just a pour and call it a day. Like, she's made her own molds. So I actually don't fully understand the process. I haven't looked at it. I know there's a few videos she explained, but it looks like she carves epoxy and then she makes a silicone mold with it, or she uses latex for the molds, and then she pours the epoxy. So she has one where she could pour several times. So she has created her own texture. So what you're saying, that she's actually carved out, and then she creates a mold with it. Yeah. So that process, I don't know completely, but I it's something along those lines. So it does take a lot of work to get to that. And then once you have the molds, and then she'll use it only so far, and then she'll eventually, I think of that epoxy piece, she'll say like, this is no longer useful as a mold. I'm now going to clean it up and sell it as a piece. So I know she did that recently, I think. So that's how I understand it. I haven't tried out that process myself, but I think it does take a lot of work to do something like that. Carving epoxy is not easy and really messy, and yeah, it's beautiful. She has amazing craftsmanship. I actually have one of her pieces here. I bought a couple pieces.
I
Beautiful
want to buy one so much, and every time I go to buy one, and she drops them monthly, and she sells out immediately, pretty much.
I know.
So one day I'll be able to get one.
Yeah.
But that was my first one. Yeah, Brittany, go ahead.
So her name is Ashley Ashwood and Hawk. She did this piece called I Could Be Meaner. And I thought it was just amazing. She does a lot of beautiful scroll work and boards and artwork and things like that. I love how she uses wood as a medium and plays with the color with it. But something about that was just like kind of like, it's like whimsical.
Alex?
Okay, the first one that I have is from Carved Currents. So what they did is they have this ore that on the face of the ore, they did I'm not sure if, I think it's inlaid, but it's got color, and it is an orca that is like swimming through kelp in the water. So I just thought it was really cool adding in the something that is a functional piece and then putting an artistic spin on it. So that is the first one that I have on my list.
My next one is Whitewater Wood Co. He is actually, I wanted to welcome him to the Next Wave family. So he posted a reel about him getting that he needed a new router table and wanted the smart router table from Next Wave. And basically Next Wave said, all right, well, if you get, this so much interactions on your reel, we'll send you one. And he hit it almost immediately. And so then he just posted a reel about him getting it and unboxing, and he's going to be doing some content too. So I just wanted to say welcome to the Next Wave family, but also just shout out how cool that is that they just, sent him out a product because he was just to get some interaction on his posts. So
did you do one of those classic, like, when were they super popular, like the mid 2010s, where it was like, my mommy says if we get so many likes, we can, go to Disney World. It's like, that's just what I just picture in my head, was like, if we get this many likes, I get a router table, please help.
Yeah, it was basically him just doing he was like, this is my current router table, and you see it like in a heap of trash. And he's like, and so I need a new router table, and I've always wanted this because, and he gave some specs about it. And he goes, so you should all tag Next Wave and tell them to send me one. And then they made a comment that, yeah, sure, if you get like 1,000 likes on it, we'll do it. And then it was like less than 24 hours later he did. So
yes, social media pressure, the best kind of bullying.
Oh yeah. I feel like everybody gets trolled, even, so yeah, okay. All right, trolls, listen up. Brittany's needs. Yeah.
I think I feel like they don't attack you because they know that you would just obliterate them immediately.
Oh yeah. It's a respect thing. They see the amount, like I said, your art is gorgeous. So they see it and they're like, yeah, there's nothing to troll here. And they move on.
I just know that you will stand up for yourself and you will not take crap from them.
You've got the Massachusetts accent that makes me terrified for my life. So
well, and he's also like set up one of those it's like a grater or something like that, where like, I don't know if he put a plane blade in there, but he's like taking shavings using the like the toy or whatever. Like, it's cool stuff.
Yeah, Alex, we need to reach out to him and have him on the show, because I want to talk about. I also just like that he's slowly building all of these his excavator army as his.
Oh, absolutely.
So yeah, Ryan.
He is living the dream of every little boy, where it's just like heavy machinery, playing with those, making awesome stuff. Well, and the other thing too is the like, well, it's the like the landscapes are not like. They're not like a pristine landscape. Like, they're very super realistic, and the amount of detail that you need to have in order to give that appearance, like Brittany was saying with the what was the term that you said? The detail, the aerial detail or something? I lost. Visual information. There you go. It's like there's so much more extra stuff that is included in there, which takes extra time to add that in and make it look like it's supposed to be there. Well, yeah, because timing is so critical on there as it starts to like thicken and whatnot. as well to get the right colors and the right aspect ratio and the right texture.
Perfect. Alex?
Next one that I have is from uh, Michelle Schry. Her handle is, I think it's ML Schry. That's SCHRY is how you spell all that out. So what she did was she made a like dovetailed box, and then the lid, which is on like a hinge, the front portion of that is it's live edge and it's also a burl. So I really like um the contrast between the like precision of doing the dovetails integrated in with the live edge of that lid, which is, you know, it's that functional piece that's embedded into there. That just looks, it just looks like it fits perfectly. So to be able to combine something that's very like rectangular and precise with that organic shape and make it look like it belongs is really, really cool.
My last one, I'm going to shout out Yessie, our friend over at Knock on Wood, Florida. We've had her on the show before, and we actually talked about her mobile carts that she makes. But she just made an adorable 1/6 scale model of her mobile cart with like little 1/2 inch casters and stuff. It's just so cute. It's like 8 inches big. It's adorable. So it's just kind of fun to see her do, because she does these massive pieces. See her do this little tiny thing was just really adorable. So
Oh, it makes me think of the little like play kitchens or like the play like workbench or whatever where you got like the plastic tools and things. Like it immediately makes me think of like something like that where it's like you would see like a little kid playing with it and it'd be a lot of fun.
yeah, and it's a great way. And she talks about, it's a great way to prototype designs too, because this way she can bring it around and show people the design without having it in person and show it how it functions with it folding up and everything. So it definitely has a very functional use. But she even mentioned that she's like, it's just the cutest little thing. So I thought it was fun. Well, in pets and people are so difficult because you get into that uncanny valley aspect of, does it actually look like the subject that you're trying to get to? So yeah, anybody who can capture a pet and capture it, the essence, and make it look realistic and artistic at the same time is so impressive.
So that was gonna be my next one. So so usually it's Mr. Duffey stealing my stuff, so it's good that it's someone else this time at least.
We have a long running history of me apparently stealing his shout outs.
It's true. He's a thief. Yeah, because the one that I wanted to call out specifically was the dog with the golden snitch from Harry Potter in his mouth, which anyone who knows that knows the little inscription of "I open at the close" that is on there. And then that one actually had
Spoilers.
the backdrop of, you know what? If you've gone this long without seeing Harry Potter, you should have spoilers. I mean, come on. But anyway, like they had them with the backdrop of Hogwarts behind that, and just echoing what Brittany had said about the amount of detail where it's like you see her when she's creating these, like adding in all of the brush strokes for all of the hairs to make it become so realistic. And I can just appreciate the amount of effort that it takes to add in that level of detail for these pet portraits and other works of art that she does. The last one that I had was Caged Crow Customs. And what this person did, they made this a while ago, so this was more of like a recap. And so what they did was they made a metal tree, and what they did was they made it their gate for a road. So it's meant to be a tipped over tree, so it looks like a downed tree that's made out of metal, but it's actually the gate for it. And like they had a little bit of like internet trolls that were like, oh, it'll never last through the winter or something like that, and they showed like, yep, it survived just fine through a full season of elements. So it was I mean, when you look up close, like the amount of detail on it is just astounding. So they're obviously someone who took the time to make something really awesome. It reminds me of like the mathematicians and other people that were in the sciences in like the Middle Ages, where it's like it's not just like a math problem. Like they had like full on diagrams where they like added like scenery with trees and stuff. So like instead of just like a math problem with like arrows and numbers and stuff, like it's literally like a landscape portrait. So it just kind of reminded me of that, of like something that is just incredibly detailed, that it doesn't have to be that detailed and awesome, but it is, and it's even cooler for that aspect of it.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, now you can continue.
Okay, now I'll move on to our next segment.
I want to see that. You have to send that along.
Yeah,
The
it's
tree.
really cool.
The tray. You ever see that YouTube video?
Which
The
one?
Christmas tree? Oh, look at that tray. Come on, guys. We're going to set up the tray. No? Oh, my God.
I haven't.
I know that one.
You need to share that with us. I want to see this.
I'm teaching my students this past week about doing a cherry blossom. And I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to do the tray. And they're like, why are you saying it that way? I'm like, because I am.
Because it's funny, dang it.
Silly, and we're being silly, okay? The tray.
I remember this would be like, I think it was like late 2000s, where it was the nature is pretty neat guy. Do you remember those ones?
I don't know, maybe. No.
But there's like one
those
clip where he's like, because it's obviously a parody type thing, and he's like, feeling the leaves or needles on this tree, and he's like, you can tell it's a tree because of the way it is. So that one's it's great, and there's just lots of other fun tidbits in there that are wonderful. So it's like a classic YouTube video.
The good old days.
Yeah.
The good old days. The Charlie bit my finger days. Those are the days I miss.
Oh yeah. Badger,
All right.
badger, mushroom.
Moving on to our next segment. Our main topic tonight is epoxy.
Resin time, do resin time.
That sound exists somewhere? Did you make for this?
Everything on the internet is forever.
Yes, it is. So that is actually in every YouTube video from Evan and Caitlin, who are the Total Boat guys who make a ton of resin stuff. Every time they pull out the resin, that sound bite goes off. So I thought it was kind of perfect for tonight's topic. So tonight is just is about resin or epoxy and a resin art and mixed media and kind of the journey of getting everything about it. So that since we were having you on, Brittany, we wanted to talk about that and talk about your experience with epoxy. And I'm just talking here. Alex has some talking points he wanted to hit too. So
Sure.
Alex,
Yeah, because I've like, and obviously we've heard this earlier when I was talking about looking at art piece and thinking of the more like, how was this thing made? So that's kind of how my questions are geared, because that's just how my brain processes stuff.
Yeah.
So when it comes to different types of things, because when I think of especially the type of epoxy stuff that you are creating, that's in the like mostly the like epoxy art, I guess, in that realm that I think of, because like when it comes down to it, for like, because we see a bunch of like river tables where it's like it's pretty basic, where it's just like you're filling a void or you're using it as like an adhesive or something like that. But I'm thinking more along the lines of the like making it do more than just pouring it to like fill something. And so like the one that always comes up is I think you had talked about it earlier, was the like water and waves and how people create that. And so I'm kind of curious, for the types of things that you create with epoxy, maybe what are some of the are there like categories in your mind of like, hey, like there's waves, there's I'm trying to think of other scenery type things that people have done with epoxy where they're leveraging it, because obviously we talked about the excavator earlier, where we're trying to get like
Yeah.
ripples in the water or other stuff, because water is like the easy one. I don't want to say easy, like the one that's most probably commonly seen, right? Or
Yeah.
would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Most recognizable for epoxy, I think. So your question is
About
Uh,
like, are there any other categories? Like, sorry,
no, you're,
I'm word vomiting right now with like
No, so
talking
I have
through
no
this, because
idea what that question was.
the question
it's just a
is,
run-on sentence, man.
categories-
Like,
other categories of epoxy, or is categories that I work with, or how do I categorize them, or any of those?
yeah, like, because I know that I've seen like when people encase something very fragile, like there's a process of doing that where it's like you've seen someone encase like a flower or something like that, where there's like there's a specific way to do that. There's a specific way to do water and waves. And I don't know if there's any other things that you've created, whether it's like nature or stuff that you've made with epoxy, that are like other categories or something that's definitively different than that one, or maybe it's
Let her talk, Alex.
offshoot.
I think I know where you're going with this. So yeah, I mean, so at first glance, there are different types of epoxy systems for different purposes. Like you would get a casting epoxy for flowers, or the river table to be able to pour deeply. Like a tabletop would be, a lot of them you could use for artistic purposes. And I think what happened to me was when I figured out how to use epoxy, how to mix it properly, I was able to create waves. It's just a technique for me. And I was doing some markets, and then I had ocean boards. I sold boards because, functional pieces sell. And it became a time when someone said, I've seen this before, or were you here? And I'm like, you know what? As an artist, I'm more than ocean boards. I'm not shade. There's no shade on any of that. I think just for me as an artist, I think because I've worked with so many different materials, it's very exciting when you start working with something new. Epoxy versus traditional materials has a versatility and capabilities that regular media does not. And I think it's that science aspect. And if you look at you can use it in so many different ways if you understand what it's capable of. Like if you know that you can use it as an adhesive, you can use it to cast, you can bend it. If you know the chemical makeup of it, of what it's possible, you start to think of, well, what else can you do with it? If you understand what happens when you mix it together, when you mix it at a certain temperature or a certain thickness, when is it no longer sticky and it's just malleable? So that was a thing I started to do, where I got those 3D waves, where I started pouring it on a sheet and peeling it up. I'm sure that's not a new technique. I'm sure someone else has done something like that before. And then I started casting things differently. Like I would actually pour on a silicone mold, peel it up while it was still malleable. And that's how I made the rib cage, and how I made the skull and stuff. It's like you can put it on something, you can actually cut it. And I think that part, it was a combination of things of how I got there. I think it was I was already using different materials, and I wanted to bring in those traditional materials into my work, the epoxy work. And when you're using different materials, you think about what's its visual and physical properties. You think about I have paste that will crack on its own. I got stuff that will look shiny or textured. Epoxy has a very shiny, smooth texture. It's also really strong. So you think about what you're trying to replicate, and how can you do that visually? So then when you're working with, epoxy is capable of those things, you think about, well, if I wanted to do that, I know that this is the scientific limitations. So, but how can you work around them a little bit? Knowing these rules, or these scientific rules, what are some ways that you can play with it and figure out something else to do with it? Because you see the river tables, you see the boards, you see the thing. And if me working with a bunch of different materials doesn't explain this, I'll say it out loud. I get bored with just one technique, one material, and I want I want to mix things up. I want to see what different things look like. There's this big experimental part of what I enjoy doing, and it's more of a curiosity of like what it could do than a fear that something's not going to work. So I've effed up a lot, and it's because I'm curious about what something is going to do. I don't know if that answered your.
It does. I know for me, like I love the fact that the hold on, get bored. I call it ADHD. But
Yes,
like
this
for me,
brought to you by mental disorders and other neurodivergence.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, for me, like there's no better explanation of your artwork of so your piece, The Lovers. It's one of my favorite pieces that you've done, because there are so many different techniques and different materials in that piece, that I think is just really, really cool. And I just love the idea of, two skeletons locked in this forever moment. And so I just thought it was really cool. But I did want to talk about more recently. You did a piece. I think it was on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, there it is. Your I'm not going to say that Italian word. The light dark.
Oh, chiaroscuro.
Perfect. I can't say that.
Girl.
Yeah,
I can't even say pronounced well. Chiaroscuro, and it's a contrast of strong light and dark. Yeah.
So I love the darkness in it and how the flowers are just coming out of the depth. But I think what's really cool, and I haven't seen a lot of people do this or do it well, I should say, is I see a lot of people when they do flowers. I don't know if it's maybe you can speak to this if it's using the wrong type of epoxy or what, but it feels like the flower is sagging or flat. Where this piece, like I feel like I'm looking at the full depth of the flower, and it hasn't been compressed by the epoxy.
Yeah, you've captured the moment of what it was like at that particular time, right? Like it's not
right. It's still holding the flowers
natural.
or the petals are coming out in their normal arc and stuff. They're not being squished down. They're not pressed. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think the unless people are using fresh flowers, they must have already have pressed them to be flat, because if you were to the epoxy wouldn't break. Well, it can, but the epoxy itself wouldn't compress the flowers unless they were fresh and they put them in there, and then they're just gonna rot. But yeah, they must
That
have.
might be what I'm saying.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Yeah, flowers need to be dried out for at least 2 to 3 weeks in silica, but and you can dry them out like look like a full form shape. But yeah, and I think some people also do like the pressed. I mean, obviously it's subjective on what people like, but I think depending on the depth of the mold, people have pressed flowers too, and that might be also what you're seeing. Just a preferential way of drying and preserving the flowers that they pressed it and then put it in a thinner mold. I think another thing that adds to the flowers of that particular piece you're talking about is I started off with a completely black opaque base, and I slowly increased the opacity as it came up, so it it creates the illusion of depth much greater than just looking at like a 3-inch deep thing. I think that adds to it partly, but that I think is what you probably have seen and why it has looked like that for others. For other stuff.
And then with those castings, since obviously as well as anyone who's worked with epoxy, the amount of heat that it generates, does that casting epoxy, does it have a different temperature that it cures at so that you can work with that piece a little bit better, or do you have to adjust how you're working with the epoxy to accommodate that amount of heat that it takes?
That's a great question. I don't actually know the peak temperature that the casting epoxy gets to. I've used different epoxy systems with different flowers, and they didn't burn. Like they didn't like catch on fire. Nothing has happened to them. There is something that you'll notice though with flowers, but I think this would happen anyways, and it's bruising. So if the flowers were handled and that's just naturally handled. You wouldn't see it unless they were submerged, and you'll see that in the epoxy, but that's not caused from the epoxy itself. That's just from like the clear liquid around it.
Oh, okay.
Flowers can burn though if people try to get out the bubbles and they use a heat gun excessively, use a torch, that would cause it. I don't know what what the peak temperature is for the epoxy at the top of my head, but and I do know that different systems I've used work with flowers, but they just need to be tried out. So, but that is a great question. The concern of like how hot does things get, but apparently cool enough for flowers to still withstand the heat.
Right. Yeah, because I know that some people who have done more of like the diorama casting
Yeah.
have had like if it's like toys or other stuff, like that heat can come into play because like the paint or like the plastic or something like that may have a melting point that's kind of low, and some of those colors can run in those scenarios. And I think the solution for that one was like painting on epoxy so there's a thin layer on there to begin with.
I also wonder if it's not actually the epoxy melting it off, but the chemical that's in the paint that when it meets.
Oh, it's just a chemical reaction between the
Well,
epoxy and the
because like
whatever is being cast.
if you take certain photographs and if you don't like seal them in like a double sealed like clear thing, the picture will actually like just dissipate. Will just go away, the ink. So I'm wondering whatever is in that ink could be something similar when it reacts to this polymer, it somehow breaks it down. I don't know, but I wonder if that's what it is and not necessarily the heat, because I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Just a question.
No, yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like you said, I mean, working with it to see what happens, because I mean that's how we learn is like stuff goes wrong.
Yeah.
We're like, oh yeah, like I do need to worry about heat with this thing, or no, heat doesn't really do much, so it's fine. I don't have to worry about that in
Yeah.
that scenario. But back to the waves and the making the water and that stuff.
Yeah.
For that one, because I've seen enough of the videos that I understand that there is epoxy that is put on there that's like you've got to put in each specific color, and there are like I've seen some people doing like the heat guns or something like that, but I'm curious like what types of tools you find the most useful when you're working with epoxy, whether it's from the waves or doing something different. Like what are some things that people who are wanting to play around with the epoxy would actually need tool wise to help them play and figure out how to work with this particular medium?
Yeah, your heat gun I think is really important. There are all different kinds out there. The one I really like has a temperature control. Some heat guns will just be a set temperature, and then also this one comes with different nozzles, and I like to think of them as different paintbrushes because the nozzle is going to push the epoxy in different directions, and you'll get different types of movement that way. So that's really important. A torch is very different than a heat gun. I like to think of it this way. So a heat gun is very similar to a hair dryer. It will move your hair around, right? A torch will not. It'll just catch it on fire. So
It sounds like you speak from experience.
yeah, no, that's the feel I get with the epoxy classes I've been doing, teaching the difference because and why it's important. So like the heat gun will move your epoxy and it also will release bubbles, but the torch will release bubbles. And sometimes that's you don't want to move your epoxy around. You just want to release some bubbles. So that's why I think it's important to have that. And nothing like especially people who are just starting out. The one I have is literally meant for creme brulee, for like toasting up its sugar. So it's a very nice little user friendly one. I would also say it's important to have isopropyl alcohol. It's sometimes it's helpful when you like let's say you're doing flower flower casting, and you cannot use heat on your flowers, but you can spray a little isopropyl alcohol, and that will release some of the bubbles. But you want to get like the mist part of it. Sometimes you get a swirl. And then baby wipes are really helpful for safety. If you don't have crocodile wipes or any fancy like wipes, dollar store baby wipes are really great. It helps you wipe things off surface, and it's great for your hands. For safety, you never want to use a solvent for wiping your hands. And I'd like to also plug in about coloring. Pigments are like a visual texture. So if you're ever using pigment and it has a range, 3 things you want to think about for epoxy is for coloring is opacity, saturation, and texture. Do you want it to be able to see through it? Do you want it solid? Do you want it really vivid? Do you want it kind of muted or light? Or do you want it to be completely unified in color, or do you want to have that swirl? And different colorants will achieve those goals. So that's another thing, and that's all different depending on what your goals are. And I think that might be.
Yeah, because I remember.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you at one point. This was a few months ago when I was talking about it was the Total Boat dispersion pigment, and I was looking through there, and it didn't have any like suggestions for like mixing ratios, and you were just like, just mix some and then just dab it on, a little piece that is thin, and you'll be able to see like what opacity you're actually getting out of that. And if it's, you want it to be not see-through, like that thin layer won't let anything through, and then you've got enough.
Yeah. I know it's hard when you have that massive volume in a big container to see.
Right. Yeah. And then because those colors, that pigment dispersion stuff is more color, and you had said, what was the other one? Texture? Was that the difference between just like something that is like the pigment dispersion that's a color, and like the mica powder where you've got that metallic kind of reflective?
Yeah, so the colorant that I've come across for epoxy that has a visual texture or has it's like dimensional is pigment, is mica powder. Some will say matte and they don't have any, but it whichever way it's poured and moved around, it's going to stay. Obviously there is that. Obviously, epoxy will self-level and they'll be shifting, but whatever way it's manipulated, you're going to see the swirl in it, and that's a visual texture. And if you want it to be completely solid, one uniform color, you don't want any changes or subtleties, that would be, you would gravitate towards something else. So that is like the only thing I've found that has like a visual texture to it. And then last thing I would say are silicone brushes. Silicone brushes are great because, especially if you want to paint something vertically, you want to get the edges or just moving stuff around. It's just a great tool to have, and it's easy to clean.
So is that for like if you're just putting on like a thin layer of epoxy, or are you talking about like kind of because my mind instantly goes to like when people do the river epoxy pour, they got the mica powder in and they're like drawing like swirls and stuff like that into the actual epoxy, kind of like the what's the like the coffee latte art and whatnot, where they're like creating a design that way.
Yeah, the silicone brush really wouldn't be for that. That would just be like a regular like stir stick or whatever. A silicone brush is great for like thin, yeah, you're right, thin applications. Like a lot of the trees and stuff I use like a high performance, but I don't want it dripping, but I want it on there thin, so I'll use a silicone brush. Or the vertical edges of my panel, if I wanted to clean it up or make sure it's on there, using the silicone brush is a thin enough layer where it really wouldn't drip. I've also used it with the 3D waves when I wanted to attach the wave, but I waited till the end of the epoxy's working time, so it was extremely tacky, but I was able to brush it on by using a silicone brush. So I was hoping it would cure fast enough so while the wave was setting, it was also being adhered by something just as strong as it, because if I poured something else that was weaker than epoxy around it when I poured the epoxy, it wouldn't stay. But the silicone brush came in handy because it was a way I could manipulate it. It wouldn't get stuck with my gloves. It comes off the brush, so it's a nice tool to have.
Cool.
Nice. Okay, so before we wrap up here, Brittany, where can people find you and where can they support your art and so on?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, brittanycarbone.art, and my website is the same name, brittanycarboneart.com. The dot's just somewhere else. But yeah, if you just search up my name with art, YouTube, TikTok, all that will come up. Yeah, and reach out, say hello.
Yeah,
Send me
because
And
you
you
also
have-
do consultations
Yes.
online as well as the in-person stuff for when
Yeah.
people are like, because when they're trying something that's a little bit more involved, where like, because like you had mentioned before, sometimes timing is critical on when you do certain things.
Yep.
And so that's where some of that consultation stuff can probably come into play and help prevent people, because epoxy is not a cheap material, relatively speaking. So sometimes having, if you were wanting to experiment with something that is more than just pouring in to fill voids, I mean,
Yeah.
even pouring in to fill voids has its own learning curve. That's
Right.
an option for people to have in their back pocket for a little bit of an insurance policy to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible. Because honestly, I know that I would probably mess up some of the wave art multiple times before I got it right. And it sounds like you went through the same learning
Yeah.
curve as well with that medium.
Yeah, I mean, you can be told to like on how to do it, but like once you go through it yourself, and like what I even tell people when they switch epoxy systems, like somebody who did the workshop with me at Workbench, and then they were using, I suggested a different epoxy system which has a different viscosity, so it's more watery. I'm like, it feels completely different. So, like when you're pouring it and handling it, like when you're used to with like something thick and you're working with something thin, like you just want to be comfortable with what your material is. And I hope people hear this part. It's not common knowledge about this stuff, so none of these questions are dumb. So like, and there's like no gatekeeping with this stuff because it's all technique. It's all things that we can always get better at. And save yourself some dollars, save your sentimental stuff, and ask somebody that has done it before. Like I had people said they were going to use somebody's wedding flowers and they were just going to go for it. I'm like, probably not the best idea because you want to make sure you want to take a step.
Yeah, you don't get multiple tries with that.
Yeah, no. So never practice with anything sentimental. Always do something on a small scale, and anything new you introduce, it is considered a test. So that's what I like to offer as advice.
Yeah. I can't remember what episode it was, but I was like in a time crunch on filling some epoxy voids, and I royally screwed it up because I was literally popping bubbles as we were recording, and I think I may have added too much heat.
It was in our first couple episodes.
Yeah, it was just one of these things, and I think I alluded to it in the subsequent recordings because I had to I threw it through the planer and it didn't cure right, and then so it wasn't solid, so it didn't have that strength that it should have had, and I used a crap ton of CA glue, which introduced other issues. And I can speak to rushing or doing other stuff is good. You'll find out some interesting things.
Do it. I mean, you'd think I would learn. I would know better. I still do those things, and then I try to remind myself, you can rush. You can rush.
Yeah,
not going
nice
to.
epoxy, crappy epoxy. This stuff is still tacky. This is from
Oh my
I don't know
gosh,
how many months ago.
It probably wasn't, either the ratio was off or wasn't
Yeah, I did something wrong.
wild. Yeah, never rush. It's just not worth it. It's like, just give yourself another day. Set yourself up. That's sometimes I like to do too, is I'll just set up the space ready for the pour. And then I'm like, all right, coming back to you later because we took a long time doing this. Let's spend some time with that later.
Nice. On that note,
Good news, everyone.
so to wrap up, just some maker events coming up. Remember the Midwest Maker Meetup in Omaha, Nebraska, coming up May 16th. So we are a month away at this point. If you're in the Pacific
Less than a
Northwest,
month.
less than a month, yeah. If you're in the Pacific Northwest, my big UFO Fest is in May 15th, 16th in McMinnville. So if you're in the area, come by, say hi. I'll have some stickers for the podcast too. So if you're a listener, make sure you swing by. And then finally, wanted to shout out again the Scale Model Making 101, the virtual class at plainwellness.org. Our lovely guest from last week is teaching, so I want to make sure that we shout that out again on May 22nd. And then, Alex, anything for you?
I think you covered all of the stuff. I don't think I have any other things. I don't know. Brittany, are you, because you said you were setting up for courses. Have you scheduled courses as of yet? Or
For
figured
my
out, or thought of
studio,
it? Yeah, doing courses there.
I think I'm probably gonna start more. Nothing's on the books yet. I'm just trying to just I'm gonna do a few guinea pig classes with friends and family and stuff like that, and just to gauge like how it was like coming here to park or coming navigating and everything, and perhaps like I want to first offer things that aren't just intensive with like epoxy or painting, but like where anybody could come up and just have a good time, maybe have a cup of tea or other beverages or whatever here. So I'm gonna have like a range of classes. So that's a long answered no. Not yet.
No, that's a perfectly reasonable answer, because like understanding like how many people you can comfortably have in here, like
Yeah.
what things are people like. People have bathroom breaks and all sorts of other stuff, and handling, like you said, like food and whatnot and parking and all those things that we don't think about necessarily. So yeah, test runs are good.
Yeah. You'll learn real
Well,
fast.
and once you do get some stuff scheduled, let us know and we'll get it plugged for you.
I appreciate that. Hey, Alex Squared, I really appreciate you guys having me on today. Thank you for your patience with me and my bandwidth problems. But this was really
It
fun.
happens. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
And remember, everybody, in case we'll talk to you soon.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night, everybody.
I'm waiting.
Rush your epoxy.